Trust to Disrupt, the podcast where visionary entrepreneurs, artists, creators, Web3 and crypto minds share visionary conversations and disruptive success stories. There is a huge dilemma which is growing, and a solution, by the way, looking at the global economy, looking at the world as a total, and a dilemma that especially you as someone in a high decision-making position, maybe a position of power, you're a seasoned entrepreneur, you are maybe a contracted C-level person in a globally acting organization, maybe you really made it in the online business world, anything service-based, educational businesses, or any e-com businesses, whatever it may be, you have this entrepreneurial spirit. You are in a position of power, you are driving responsibility, you're driving growth. And the dilemma that you may also be seeing, sensing, being confronted with in KPIs, everyday connections and conversations that you see when you look at the world is how would you want to sustain and expand success and sanity, looking at all of the things that are going on in the world and all of the change that is happening. I've said there's also a solution, and I want to shed some light in this episode today, in this solo episode on Trust to Disrupt, the podcast for visionary minds. And what we want to focus on, what I want to focus on for you in this episode is, what is the dilemma in particular? Maybe you feel like you're sensing something and you're seeing a couple of things, and potentially you feel a little bit overwhelmed in putting exactly your finger on describing what it is and what could be the solution. And maybe you already sense there are some things and you start seeing first opportunities where shifts and changes are going economically, business strategies, even geopolitical situations that give you information on, okay, where might be a next opportunity, what might be serving. Maybe you feel an inner calling that you can't really put into words yet, but there is something that leads you to sense there is opportunity, also something inside of you that calls for more meaning, that you want to contribute to the world. At the same time, you want more satisfaction, more fulfillment for yourself, but also you care about the people that are somewhere in your responsibility. Maybe that's team that you have directly, maybe teams if your organization, you're an entrepreneur that's already a little bit bigger. If you're in a contracted role, some C-level position, or even in a political decision-making role, there will be some people that you're sort of responsible for one way or the other. And this, and also your clients, your audience, there's a certain care that you also have, that you want to contribute something and that you want them to thrive as well. One way or the other, depending on which industry you're in, which niche, doesn't matter. But the common ground is you're in a decision-making position, you're in a driver's seat position, and you see that there is a dilemma, that things are moving in funny directions, and you have the urge to want to contribute to that. Yet, and this is what I want to talk about, you miss the bridge. And that is what I mean when I said there is dilemma and it's growing, and also there is a bridge. So bear with me. I'm gonna shed light on the whole situation, add more perspectives for you so you can see with more clarity and also understand where is the bridge. Where are the bridge building people? I am one of them, by the way, with what I do. If you've been on the podcast here for a little while, you've heard a lot of guests. The guests I'm inviting come from all kinds of different industries, but what unites them is their approach in doing something differently. They are disrupting in the industries. They are approaching things in a completely new way because they are also all bridge builders, one way or the other. So if you have not yet checked out other episodes, please check Spotify, YouTube, check iTunes, wherever you're watching this or listening to this. You can check out the Rumble channel and just flip through the episodes and check in and tune in into the headlines and the people, maybe the names that you find that feel inspiring to you, and give them a listen, and also find your way in becoming the bridge builder, because that's where we're going to take a look at to now, what is that? So I've already started to talk about this topic a little while ago, about 3-4 weeks ago, on LinkedIn, on a post that then kind of went viral. I'm going to just read out a few lines of that to set the stage and give some context for you. So what I've started the post with is, The toughest shift for leaders and the global economy to sustain success and sanity is not keeping up with AI, reaching Gen Z, or ensuring KPI alignment with remote teams, even though all of that is relevant. But we are in evolution, in an evolution that the world hasn't seen in a very, very, very long time. And the quest to bridge is now here. What works to bridge what works logically and in deeper meaning. The future markets and the past heritage. The personal fulfillment and profitable business models. And this bridge, this quest to create these bridges can only work sustainably when you flip the script from, and this is the core now, very important, flip the script from approaches and concepts and dynamics from vertical to horizontal, hierarchical to network, and sustainable to conscious. And the extra part now is the flip can only happen this time when it is initiated from the human factor. So that was the first part of the post, and the post kind of went viral on LinkedIn, 5,000-6,000 views, reach, whatever. The context of that means that is maybe already catching on the dilemma that you potentially will be seeing, sensing, feeling as well. So let me shed some light on what that is. We do have sort of a split, a paradigm shift, this evolution in the world happening now. And that is at large scale. That's why it's so hard to really capture what exactly it means, right? Because it is just so multi-layered, so multifaceted, that every time you think you captured a piece of it, maybe even it's in your industry or you understood part of the new technology emerging, whatever it is, you're approaching one of the things, the puzzle pieces that you could catch or that felt resonating to you. And you're like, oh, that's what it means, or that's what it is. But then still the bigger picture feels like it's not clicking together. Or even when you thought you took a level higher, like a meta perspective, you still only capture a part of the whole thing. And some things make sense, but then at some point you hit a dead end again. So, and this can feel really frustrating, even though you're a highly motivated person and like a high achieving person, still you feel it keeps getting harder and harder to find the inner balance, to keep the energy level high, to keep performance rates in a good way at high performance, but not at a cost of your health, your energy, or even your teams, your performance in the business, etc., etc. So let me give some more perspective here for that, for context, making it easier for you to identify what it actually is that is going on in the world. That is, by the way, one of my specialties, is one of my gifts, part of my genius, to be able to go very high in perspective and put the pieces together in a way that most people cannot. So making it very simple. It's a bit black and whitish, but just for the sake of understanding, okay? What we have in the world right now, it's a very small group yet. It's growing, which is fantastic. Yet to have balance and to make it more visible to a broader public, there will be passing some time. But what we see is we have a small group, growing group of individuals, the bridge builders, if you will. So I'm part of that group as well, who can look at the world and see and put the puzzle pieces together in the economy, across industries, financial systems, political things that happen in the world. And it's not about judging who is wrong or right, or who is the better leader or the worst leader. It is just understanding the dynamics of what is happening beyond what you see on the surface of what media is transporting, etc., etc. Okay, it's really having ways of seeing, knowing, understanding the dynamics and the concepts of what's happening. So there's a small group of people who can cut through all of the noise, who can more or less see what's going on. And I'm not claiming, and it's not about saying these people or I know it all, have it all figured out. It's not about that. It is just saying that there's higher perspectives possible, which make it easier and helpful also for others to put things into a different perspective. A perspective that, again, then opens up more opportunity and more solution pathways. Okay, so this is the overall intention. It's not about judging things or about putting someone into a wrong or right corner, but the intention is to create additional perspectives in this world that help understand and opening up pathways for solutions and new opportunities to move forward. All right. So this is a rather small group of people in the world that is there, that can see that, I want to say translate that, okay, has started to share about it, because a lot of times it is very contradictory to what is communicated in the broader mass media, that is like what is socially accepted, quote unquote socially accepted, okay? So these people, and I can include myself, have needed some time to develop the confidence in their own perspectives to feel safe to share, because usually, or a lot of times, it's contradictory to what most other people, and maybe you as well, will read or hear or see in the common narrative. That's why I'm saying this group of people is growing, which is amazing. And again, it's coming from a peaceful intention, okay? It's a peaceful intention. It's an intention that wants to create impact and wants to support a positive change. This is very important, by the way, okay? To put it into this context. What they are also able to see because of that is through the hologram that the world is, okay? Through the illusions, if you want. You all know, you do know the movies Matrix, okay? It's a simulation. Like the world that we live in is a simulation, right? It's a hologram. And the small group I'm referencing to is able to see through that, and because of that, interpret. Again, this is not like, oh, conspiracy theory and blaming this group or that person, or it's not about that. It's rather in the intention of bringing truth to the surface. Truth to the surface, so clarity can evolve for more and more people, and authenticity is the driving and leading factor. This is where I'm coming from, and this is important, okay? So there's no blame game. This is no better or worse. And you'll hear in a second why. This is an important switch, also from what I referenced to in that LinkedIn post. So that is the one thing that is going on. Then the other thing, the contrast, if you will, right? Where the dilemma now comes into play, and you might be exactly in the middle. What I've just described to you, maybe you've heard about some of these things. Maybe you've come across some, I don't know, maybe you checked out TikTok, or you read an article, or you found a YouTube video somewhere, or you're in a Telegram channel. I don't know, right? Maybe it's even in a situation where you joined a Telegram channel where there's alternative information versus mainstream media, but you feel like a little bit insecure if you should tell someone that you know, someone in your friends or other leaders, right? Your colleagues, your peers, your entrepreneurial networks. Should you be sharing that you are listening or watching or reading this type of information? Where can you find exchange for that, right? Hi, I'm here. You can always talk to me about these things, right? Because you're not crazy when you're sensing some things are weird. Or you're not crazy, okay? Trust your gut, trust your intuition, and keep asking, keep challenging, because you as a potential bridge builder are needed. Because we're coming to the other side, which is the largest group on the planet at the moment, is a majority of people who are completely unprepared and incapable. Important does not mean not intelligent. Okay? Just means yet at the moment not at a capacity that enables them to deal with the situation that is happening on the planet at the moment. Has nothing to do with intellect, okay, and intelligence, but has to do with inner ability and capacity that is already reconnected or set free. And then this leads back to consciousness in the end, right? Because that is consciousness is part, I'm going to spill that out already a little bit. Consciousness is part of the bridge, okay, the bridge that we need. I said in another post that consciousness is the major competitive advantage in leadership and in business that is going to win in the future, right? So it is part of bridging these two groups, and by that moving intentionally the world and life for all of us, business for all of us, in a very positive direction for the future. Okay, so we have this huge group, and this group may be people on your team or your teams, your even if you have, you're an entrepreneur, a classic entrepreneurial person, right? Maybe if you made it in the coaching space or the educational space, type of direction, anything, Tony Robbins, etc., Joe Dispenza, whatever that is, all the coaching stuff, the transformational stuff, the business coaching, etc. Or you moved completely into the e-commerce direction or into the crypto space, trading. Maybe you're following Luke Belmar and these people, right? And you make your shares and your stakes in there. Then you have either teams or groups and peers and communities that you're part of. And these could be, to a certain extent, be filled with this other group of people. It is mixing, and I'm saying it's evolving, right? But it could also be just people on your teams. If that's on your direct teams in your business, if you are a high-level decision maker, a C-suite person in a bigger organization, CEO, CIO, CMO, CFO, whatever it is, right? All these type of roles, you have direct reports, they have teams, so there's a lot of people. And while all of them probably are quite intellectually and qualification-wise very high-level skilled, what I'm talking about is they might not have yet developed and gotten trained, if you will, in this capacity and capability of dealing with the world and being able to move into more agency. Okay, consciousness and agency are two words and two qualifications, two skill sets that are also going to be very, very important, if not like completely necessary, to be thriving in the future world that we're moving into, like we're now in, if you will. Okay, so this is the other side where the majority of people is, or this group will be your clients, your customers, your audience. Okay, the people who follow you online, on social, on your email list. Even if you're having B2B clients and you're more in the negotiation part, okay, that is still, you have these people there, and they, no matter what you sell or what you market or whatever your responsibility is in that business context, right, that if they are your clients, your customers, they have an expectation, obviously, whatever they buy from you, they have a desire that this will support them into thriving. And it doesn't matter if you sell a software or if you sell some technical item or if you sell a consumer good, it doesn't matter, right? The transaction that they are interchanging with your business and with you is obviously supposed to support them on their journey as well. And if you can see what else they might need on their business as a person, as a leader, beyond the transactional thing that your service or your product delivers and solves, this is how you win, is another hint, okay? So maybe you've identified a few things from what I've been talking about, where you're like, yeah, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm experiencing. Maybe yourself, you feel as well like that. So now let me come to what is the solution and what is the bridge? Like, where are we then going? What is something where you can find orientation and take next steps? Obviously, you can always hire me, right? Because this is basically what I do. I am helping individuals like you, high-level leaders, decision makers, creators, these bridge builders, that you don't know yet, maybe, but you have that feeling, that sensation, right? You know, even though the times now feel overwhelming or challenging or sometimes frustrating, okay? But there's this other spark in you, this voice where you know you're made for this, and there is an opportunity now, even though it feels chaotic and uncertain and all of the things, right? But there's this flame, this fire, this voice within you that tells you that this is your time, and this calling for delivering and contributing something meaningful for the world, for the future, for the people that you care about. Not only your family or your friends, but really your audience, your clients, your teams. You have a part of you within you that deeply cares and that deeply wants to provide something for the world, okay? Whether that is a practical solution, whether that is another strategy, whether that is confidence and courage again, trusting in their own skills, or providing some certainty and some safety in a world that feels highly unsafe and that feels highly uncertain. Whatever your inner driver is, there is something, okay? And there's a reason that you're feeling this and that this inner voice is becoming potentially louder within you, and that you start to maybe ask more questions. You just don't know yet who can you ask, with whom can you exchange about this. Again, you can always reach out to me, okay? You can do that on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, but preferably go through LinkedIn or through Instagram. That is just Judith Juhnke on LinkedIn, or you can find me on I am Judith Juhnke on Instagram. Okay, just send me a DM, ask a question, whatever it is that you feel that you cannot talk to about with anyone else. Okay. Then we can do that. Or if you're already at the point to see like you're ready to receive support, to hire someone to help you make these new moves and steps. Personally, because what I said in the LinkedIn post is true. We are in this paradigm, in this era now. You can only get to the clarity of what is the strategy that you need. Maybe it's a new business model. Maybe it is a different strategy overall on sales or marketing, depending what your setup is, right? Maybe it's a different leadership style, but it starts with you. It has to start with you. It's not just another optimization step, right? Where you need to yourself find more alignment or more mastery in managing your emotions or something like that, right? Because probably you've done that. You've been on these leadership trainings as an entrepreneur. This is personal growth on speed anyways, okay? So you've done all of these things. You've taken this journey from the boss era to the manager area. Even if you're an entrepreneur, right? Leading yourself, leading other people, you've done that. You've explored emotional intelligence, emotional leadership to a certain extent, right? You're aware, mental health, all of these things, right? Probably there's a ton of things if you're in a bigger organization that the organization has implemented across the last years anyway. As an entrepreneur, again, you will have walked through that with coaches or with other programs or masterminds or whatever it is. So this is not new. You're there already. And yet you feel like all of these tools, even if you try to optimize more in these, this is not creating the bigger switch. And that's what I'm saying. The bridge we need to build now starts within you, so you can become that bridge builder to that future, to find the new pathways and solutions to build for the new world. And before that can turn into practical strategies, action steps, communication, marketing, sales, whatever it is exactly that you need, okay? Before that can happen, you internally need to make a major switch. There is a switch in consciousness, and it's a switch in how your operation system as a human being functions. This is what needs to happen, because then you get to another level where you can have a different type of perspectives. If you think about how you create a result, right? The result is the consequence of action you take. The actions you take are a result of decisions that you take. The decisions that you take are a result of the information pool that you have access to. From that, you have the combination of your thoughts and your emotions. This is, what you can think about and then come to a conclusion that derives into a decision, then creates an action that creates a result. And what we need to do now first is to enlarge your data set of the pool of information that is available to you. And at the point where we are now in the world, you don't do that any longer by watching 10 more YouTube videos or by hiring, by external information intake. It does not happen by taking in more external information. It happens through going deeper within yourself and retrieving new information and data sets from within you. And this is added to the fact-based data set pool that you have. And by that, then, this creates the ability within you to take different decisions, because you can have different perspectives from a higher realm, if you will. And that makes you move more towards the first group of people that I've described in the beginning, okay? This is growing. It's still a smaller group, but it's growing because more people are willing to take this pathway of inner evolution, that is human evolution at its core, to then come up with new ways of collaboration, new ways of how things are done. And this is going to then break down. This is what I'm doing with people, with entrepreneurs, with organizations. Come from the person and then be very, very specific and clear on what the action steps look like, whether that is in sales, whether that is in marketing, the strategic moves that are necessary, the things that need to change in the way how it is operated, okay? Maybe that is a new niche. Maybe there's a ton of things that then may look like, okay, this is the classic ABC of business. And it is, but it has different outcomes that are more powerful and impactful, because you will be able to have more clarity and on which 2 or 3 things that you take action on, or your organization, are the ones with the highest leverage and the highest impact, and leaves you with inner peace to let go of maybe 5 other ones where beforehand you weren't completely sure, and you started more than is necessary, spreading yourself, your energy, your budgets a bit too thin, and then relying on test and trial and error to figure out, and then only clear out. So what if you could have that clarity up front and be out there with the 2 or 3 things that really bring leverage and that really bring the results, and you can completely cut out the rest right from the start. This is one of the differences of the operation, okay? And how you do that is actually really in increasing and raising your consciousness levels and reactivating more things in depth, right? So basically, in a summary, the next level, or the success and the thriving for the future, the next level is not higher. The next level is not like faster in the way that you know that from optimizing. It's not the next Pomodoro technique to make you even more efficient in a 25-minute time slot. It's not about that. The next level has more depth. The next level has more depth, and it comes from you within. And that means for you as a leader, after you've accomplished over the last probably decade this move from boss to manager and a leader, this is what we called it, right? Now we're in the transition phase of going from this manager and leader to the guide. You will become the guide. That does not mean that you're going to sit like a, I don't know, gray-haired woman or gray-bearded old man on top of some mountain and smoke your pipe and meditate a little bit, and then somebody can come to you for guidance twice a day for 10 minutes, that kind of a picture. No. But the way that you will lead is more by guidance, because it is in a way that assumes and helps everyone that you guide. And again, no matter if that's in a larger organization, you have direct reports and bigger teams, or if you're in that online space, entrepreneurial space, with whatever it is, right? You have an audience, you're guiding everyone who is listening to you, or who is in your field, okay? Who is receiving what you're sending, one or the other way. You're guiding them and teaching them a way how they become more sovereign, step by step by step. And that's where we're moving with the whole world, more sovereignty of every individual. And this is the basic requirement for the new world, or for the new version of the world that is kind of falling apart. And I'm going to just say as is. The world as we know it, the illusion, the hologram, is crumbling and it is falling apart. And as hard as that sounds, it has to happen for the new to be built up, because we're done with the time where we can optimize within the existing. And that's why you see so much turmoil in the world and so much crisis, and so even the wars, okay? From that higher level perspective, from some sort of perspective, all of these things have to happen in a way, okay? I'm saying that really with neutrality. For the old structures to break down to an extent that there's enough space for the new ways to emerge. And there's this bridge phase in the moment where we need the bridge builders, where it's people like me and people like you who may feel this inner calling somehow, this drive to contribute, and you understand that there will be new, and you understand that the old is not serving any longer, right? So this is where we need to go. And you can, coming to the closing part of this episode slowly, you can already see that in the world, okay? You can see where all of this stuff is crumbling. When you look at the global economy, you look at different industries. Just as an example, look at the textile industry. I mean, it's not new. It is kind of disrupting itself for the last years, and it already got the first big hit during the pandemic years, right? When all the supply chains were down. But now, right, that brings me to supply chain as a great keyword, is a great next topic, if you will. Maybe you've seen, if you have not, open TikTok, right? If you don't have an account on TikTok yet, by the way, open one, okay? And just type in the search bar, China suppliers, right? It started with the textile and the luxury brands industry, but it is the Chinese suppliers. Like, I don't know how much percentage of all of the consumer goods, including textiles, are manufactured in China, right? And through the whole bashing of the tariff stuff driven by the US and then the whole global ping pong about that, right? That's a different ballgame to talk about that. Has been an intention behind that. The way it was played was kind of crazy, definitely. Yet it has led to disruption that the suppliers in China, a lot of them have just opened up the supply chains and posted on TikTok exactly which suppliers, which materials, the prices. And this has not only been in fashion. There have been other industries where suppliers then were like, well, you know, we're not gonna keep being the player where you can cheaply produce and then put on 80% margin and sell and you get the majority of the profit. We're just gonna lay it open now and then people can decide what they want to do. Okay, so this is disruption that you may have seen. Then obviously talking about AI, this is like across industries, right? Everything that is happening so much faster. We can talk about the restructuring of the global financial system. I'm not sure if you're aware, Google or search on any other source that you want to search ISO 200-200-22. This is something that is coming to full completion by the end of this year, 2025 in November, but has been prepared for the last, I think, 5 years. This is the SWIFT technology in banking transfers is ending and there's a technological update coming. And while this sounds kind of cute and kind of like, okay, this is just technological advancement, this is a major breakthrough in globalization of financial transactional systems, if you will, because pay attention to how these things are communicated and also do some research on crypto, including this regulation. And what you will find is there's, I think, 6 major, but overall 30 to 40 different cryptocurrencies. And surprisingly, Bitcoin is not one of them that are in connection with this shift as well, which on the outside and maybe just surface communication just looks like, oh, we're kind of more harmonizing the technologies used, so transaction fees can become cheaper for international cash transfers, and right. So that sounds very positive, and it is. At the same time, there's way more going on in the restructuring of the whole global financial system, and you may want to pay attention to who are the stakeholders in this, right? So I'm just going to drop one. Is the company that you may have heard of is called Ripple, and the currency is XRP. It's just one of them. Cardano is another one. Go do your own research on these things and you will find very interesting additional information on what is going on here, right? So I'm going to stop this here. We've just briefly covered like 3 things that are happening currently on the world. There's so many more things, okay? And I can understand if that feels overwhelming, but this is in particular what I wanted to get to here. We see this dilemma of things kind of drifting into 2 different directions. So there is hope. You feel the spark, you feel the inner fire, you see a couple of things that look positive, and you have this inner calling of, okay, there needs to be something. I sense there is not everything is negative. At the same time, the pace at which evolution takes place, technological evolution, and the pace at which news come up about what is changing, what is disrupting, what is crumbling, breaking down, etc., crisis, is increasing as well, which makes it harder and harder to stay focused on yourself and stay connected with yourself and to understand, to process, okay? There's certain purpose as well in the pace of the communication and the information and the news being sent, right? Because the more you're confused, the more you are resisting to tap into it because you just feel tired. Again, it's not about intellect or intelligence. It's just how much can you put yourself and dedicate yourself with a clear mind on that without getting too tired and without getting sucked into any of these narratives, right? keeping and refining clarity again. And the thing is, you find the deepest level of clarity within yourself. So what I meant when I said higher levels of consciousness require a deeper level of depth within yourself first. That gives you more confidence, that gives you more security and safety, and that gives you the clarity and the power and the energy to know how to move forwards, right? Again, if you want support on that for yourself and then for your company, for whatever your area of responsibility is, that's what I do, okay? That's what I help people create. So message me, reach out, send a request. In the description of the podcast episode here or the video, there's also the link of my consultancy. It's called Future Nexus Visionary Consultancy. You can book a 15-minute free clarity session just to find a first connection, okay, and see if we match. And then I can help you understand if it might make sense that we dig deeper and I create an offer for you. But these 15 minutes are just free to really check what it is that you are looking at the moment to solve or to create next, and if I can be a person to support you in that journey. All right. And obviously you can get to know me a little bit more and see how we vibe together, if that's a fit for you, and I can see if you're a fit for me. So that is what you can do. Amazing. So I'm going to close this episode now and leave you with all of the information conveyed. Just let it all sink in. I know it's a lot of information, and I know the change that is needed at the moment to become the activated bridge builder, if you will, okay? To become that person that a part of you is probably resonating with at the moment. It's like, some part of you knows, and it's like, yes. Yeah, you lack the clarity probably on what that looks like, what exactly needs to change. Let it sink in. Just end this. Come back to the episode maybe in a couple of days, re-listen if you want. Also, please send it to someone who you feel that this can be helpful for as well, okay? Who needs to hear these additional perspectives to understand what the bridge is that is needed, what it is for, and what are the two sides, the bigger sides. Again, I said it's a bit black and whitish. It is from this higher perspective, right? But this is where we need to look from. All of the lower levels where we get into too much detail, this is not gonna lead to a satisfying solution. This usually ends in exhaustion or frustration or confusion and potentially resignation. It's like, oof, okay, well, that was kind of adding information somehow, but not really creating the breakthrough in solution, okay? So the pathway is to really go from the manager and leader to becoming the guide in sovereignty and higher levels of consciousness, so you can provide an environment for everyone on your audience and your teams to also step up into more agency, consciousness, and sovereignty in the way that everyone is operating and delivering. And this is the new level where we create success from, all right? And where we close and end the dilemma of the world and build the bridge beautifully to the new world, to the new world version of all of that, and out of the simulation, out of the hologram. Amazing. Let me know what your takeaway from this episode is. Also post any sort of questions, whatever comes up for you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you really feel inspired and you gain new perspectives for your own ventures to take action. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, download the episode, and share it with one visionary person who needs to also hear this. Also, please leave a 5-star review if that feels aligned on iTunes or on Spotify. That helps to distribute the podcast to more people and to have high caliber guests on for you to enjoy.